The unexpected delivery, the morning sky over Outpost 9 was gray and silent. Captain Ryan Cross sat on the porch of his small cabin, staring at the cold mist that rolled across the rocky ground. He had been living here for 3 years, far from Earth, far from noise, far from memories. Life on this lonely colony was slow, mechanical, and quiet. That was exactly how he liked it until today. A soft alarm blinked on his wrist communicator. A message appeared in bright blue letters. "Delivery incoming, please confirm signature." Ryan frowned. He had not ordered anything for months. Then he remembered the strange application he had filled weeks ago. The companion program, they called it. It was meant to help lonely settlers find partners from other species, willing to start new lives with humans. Ryan had signed up in a moment of weakness, one lonely night with too much silence. He had not expected a real response. Minutes later, the sky rumbled as a small silver pod cut through the clouds and landed near his home. Dust and wind blasted across the field. Ryan shielded his eyes as the door of the pod hissed open. Inside there was a woman, or something close to one. She had pale skin that shimmered faintly blue under the weak sunlight. Her long silver hair hung down like broken threads, and her arms were covered in dark bruises. She looked terrified, shaking, her eyes wide as she whispered something Ryan could barely hear. "Help me," she said, then collapsed. Ryan rushed forward and caught her before she hit the metal floor. Her body was cold, lighter than he expected. He carried her inside his cabin and laid her on the couch. She kept murmuring the same words over and over. "They're coming. They're coming." Ryan checked the small tag on her wrist. It glowed faintly with digital text. "Elyra, Project Genesis, classified access only." He froze. The words Project Genesis meant nothing to him, yet the word classified sent a chill down his spine. He turned on his medical scanner and checked her vitals. Her pulse was weak but steady. There were strange marks near her neck like small metal scars. Something was implanted inside her. He connected the scanner to her ID chip. Trying to learn more, the screen flickered, then flashed a warning, "Unauthorized access detected." Before he could disconnect, a burst of static filled the air. For a moment, Ryan thought he heard a voice coming through the noise. "Contain the subject, terminate on sight," the voice said. Ryan pulled the plug, his heart pounding. He stared at the alien woman lying unconscious on his couch. Who was she really? Why would someone want to terminate her? And what exactly had he brought into his home? Outside, the wind grew stronger. The colony lights flickered in the distance. Ryan stepped out and looked toward the dark horizon. He could see faint streaks of light far away. Maybe ships, maybe something worse. He walked back inside, locked the door, and turned off all external signals. He sat beside her and whispered, "You're safe now," even though he was not sure it was true. Hours passed and the night deepened. Ryan sat at his old wooden desk, searching through his military database for any mention of Project Genesis, but every record was locked behind high-level clearance. All he found were rumors on hidden message boards. People talked about secret experiments, human scientists trying to merge alien DNA with human genes. Some said it was a plan to create the perfect soldier. Others said it was something worse, an attempt to control evolution itself. Suddenly, a soft sound came from behind him. Elyra was awake, sitting up slowly, her glowing eyes watching him. "Where am I?" she asked weakly. "You're on Outpost 9, Ryan said. "You were hurt. Your pod crashed." She looked around nervously, then pressed a hand to her chest. Her breathing quickened. "They tracked me. They always track me," she whispered. Ryan tried to calm her. "Who's tracking you?" She looked up, tears in her silver eyes. "Humans," she said. Then she fell silent. Ryan's mind spun. Humans were tracking her, but why? If she was part of a human experiment, it meant the government knew about her. Maybe they were already on their way. He moved to the window and looked out again. The night sky was still, but his gut told him danger was coming. Elyra stood shakily, her voice trembling. "You should not have opened that pod," Ryan frowned. "Why?" "Because," she said, looking at him with fear and sadness. "You just made yourself part of their secret." A cold silence filled the room. Ryan finally spoke. "Then we'll find out what they're hiding." Elyra shook her head. "Once they find me, there will be no hiding." The lights flickered again, this time stronger. An alert beeped on Ryan's console. Unknown ships entering orbit. He stared at the blinking red dots on the radar. "Whoever you are," he whispered, "you brought hell with you." Elyra looked down, whispering softly, I didn't bring it, Captain Cross. I escaped from it. Ryan looked at her. The woman who was supposed to be his mail-order bride. But she was something else entirely. Something that carried the weight of a terrible secret. The kind that could set the whole galaxy on fire. Outside, thunder rolled again, or maybe it wasn't thunder. Maybe it was engines closing in. Ryan checked his blaster and powered down all lights. In the dim glow of the emergency lamp, Elyra's eyes reflected silver and sorrow. The night stretched long and heavy, and Ryan Cross knew that his quiet life on Outpost 9 was over. Whatever Project Genesis was, it had found him. And nothing in the universe would ever be the same again. The night was long and heavy. Ryan could not sleep. Every sound outside felt louder than before. Every shadow felt closer. The alien woman, Elyra, slept on the couch, her breathing calm but uneven. He sat at his desk again, the faint light from his tablet shining on his tired face. He replayed the message from earlier, the one hidden inside her chip. The cold voice saying, "Contain the subject. Terminate on sight." The words echoed in his mind like thunder. Who were they talking about? Why would the Human Federation send a death order for a woman meant to be someone's bride? Ryan rubbed his temples. He remembered the wars, the lies, the orders that never made sense. He thought he had left all that behind. But maybe the war had only changed its name. Suddenly, a small beeping sound came from Elyra's wrist. He rushed over and saw her ID tag blinking red. The implant under her skin was active again. Ryan cursed under his breath and grabbed his scanner. He tried to block the signal, but it was too late. The data was transmitting to somewhere, someone. Elyra opened her eyes, panic flashing across her face. "They've found me," she whispered. Ryan's heart pounded. "Who's they?" he asked. She sat up slowly, her silver hair falling across her shoulders. "The humans," she said. "The ones who made me." Her words hung in the air like smoke. Ryan stared at her, trying to understand. "You mean the scientists?" he said carefully. Elyra nodded weakly. "They called it Project Genesis." Her voice trembled. "They took my people. They said it was for peace. But they turned us into something else." Ryan felt anger rising in his chest. He had heard whispers about secret programs during the war, but no one ever proved anything. "Why would they do that?" he asked. Elyra looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. "They wanted to make soldiers who could survive anything, who could breathe in any world, fight in any air." She looked away, her voice breaking. "They didn't ask if we wanted to help." Ryan clenched his fists. So this was the truth humanity had buried under silence. The companion program wasn't about love. It was about control. He realized he hadn't ordered a bride. He had ordered a weapon. He stood up and began pacing. "We need to remove that tracker before they come," he said. Elyra hesitated, fear flashing in her eyes. "If you try to remove it, it could kill me," she said softly. Ryan stopped, frustration written all over his face. "There has to be a way," he said. "There is," she replied. "But you won't like it." She raised her hand and pressed 2 fingers against her neck. The implant glowed brighter, and she winced in pain. A soft hum filled the room as a projection flickered in the air. It showed coordinates deep beneath the colony. "There," she said weakly. "That's where they made me." Ryan frowned. "An underground lab," she nodded. "If we go there, we can disable the link." Ryan grabbed his coat and weapon. He looked at her, uncertain. "You sure you can walk?" She smiled faintly. "I've run from worse." They stepped out into the frozen night. The wind cut through the air like knives. But Ryan didn't care. He was done running from ghosts. The lab was hidden beneath a ruined facility once used for mining. Now it was quiet. Buried under layers of ice and time, Ryan used a torch to light the path. Their footsteps echoed in the hollow tunnels. When they reached a metal door with the Genesis symbol, 2 circles connected by a line, Elyra froze. "This is it," she whispered. Ryan hacked the door open. Inside was darkness, thick and heavy. Rows of broken machines lined the walls. Glass tanks stood shattered, filled with old cables and stains that looked too much like blood. He felt his stomach twist. Elyra walked ahead, her hand trembling as she touched one of the tanks. "This is where I woke up," she said quietly. "I wasn't born, I was built." Ryan's throat went dry. He had seen many horrors in war, but nothing like this. Monitors flickered to life as they entered deeper. Screens showed images of human scientists experimenting on alien bodies. One file opened automatically. Ryan's old military ID flashed on it. His name was listed under external security support. He stared in disbelief. He had guarded this place once. Without even knowing it, Elyra looked at him sadly. "You were one of them." Ryan stepped back, shaking his head. "No, I didn't know." "I swear," she closed her eyes. "I believe you," she whispered. "You left when they started the trials. You still had a heart." A sudden noise broke the silence, a distant metallic clang. Ryan raised his weapon. From the shadows, a red light flickered. Security drones activating. He aimed and fired, the blast echoing through the hall. Sparks flew, smoke filled the room. He grabbed Elyra's hand. "Run." They escaped through a side corridor, the air thick with dust and alarm sirens. Behind them, the drones shouted in mechanical voices. "Containment breach subject identified," Elyra stumbled, the implant in her neck glowing brighter than ever. "It's overloading," she gasped. Ryan pulled her close. "We're not done yet," he said. He pulled her toward a terminal and jammed a power cell into the console. "Tell me what to do." "Cut the red line," she said. Tears streaming down her face, he did, and for a moment, everything went silent. Then the glow faded. Elyra fell into his arms. Breathing hard but alive, Ryan held her close, feeling the weight of what they had just done. He looked around the ruined lab. There was a truth buried here. A truth that could destroy the Federation, he whispered. "We'll make them pay for this." Elyra looked up weakly, her voice soft but strong. "Then we'll start by surviving." Above them, the colony alarms began to ring. They were no longer safe, and as they disappeared into the night, the name Project Genesis echoed through the dark halls, waiting for the day its secret would finally burn in the light. Morning came with a blood-red sky. The colony sirens screamed across the valley. Ryan and Elyra were still hiding in the mining tunnels, their breath visible in the cold air. He checked the scanner again, 3 red dots moving fast toward their location. "They found us," he whispered. Elyra looked weak but alert, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dark. "They will not stop," she said. "They never stop." Ryan loaded his rifle, the sound echoing through the hollow walls. "Then we make them stop," he replied. Outside, dropships landed near the ruins. Human soldiers in black armor spread out in formation, scanning the area. Their helmets glowed with red visors. One of them spoke through a comm line, confirming heat signatures below ground. Initiating purge protocol. Ryan pulled Elyra deeper into the tunnel. His pulse racing as they ran, Elyra stumbled. Grabbing her chest, her implant flickered again, the light growing brighter. "They are using me like a signal," she gasped. Ryan stopped and grabbed her shoulders. "Then we cut the signal." She nodded, eyes filled with fear. "There is a way, but we need power." "A big one." Ryan remembered the old fusion generator at the far end of the mine. If they could overload it, maybe they could fry her tracker. They sprinted through collapsing tunnels, sparks falling from rusted pipes above. The air shook as explosions echoed behind them. The soldiers were using thermal charges to blast their way in. When they reached the generator room, Ryan forced open the control panel. Elyra's hands trembled as she connected her neural wire into the system. Blue light spread through the cables like fire. The entire room hummed with energy. "Now," she said. "Hold me steady." Ryan held her as her body arched in pain. Electric pulses ran through her skin, her voice breaking in agony. "Almost." "There," she whispered. Then the lights exploded. Throwing both of them to the floor, smoke filled the room. Alarms screamed. When the noise faded, Ryan crawled toward her. Her implant was dark, the glow gone. He touched her cheek gently. "Elyra, you did it." She opened her eyes slowly. "I can't feel them anymore." He smiled with relief, but it lasted only a moment. Above them, the metal roof cracked open. A soldier dropped down through the smoke, weapon raised. Ryan rolled, firing a blast that sent sparks across the wall. The soldier fell, armor smoking. More boots hit the ground around them. Ryan grabbed Elyra's hand. "Move!" They dashed through a maintenance tunnel that led to the surface. Outside, the frozen wind burned against their faces. A transport ship hovered nearby. "One of the colony's old cargo carriers," Ryan shouted over the noise. "Can you fly it?" Elyra nodded weakly. "If it still listens to human codes." They climbed aboard, the engines coughing as Ryan slammed the ignition. Bullets hit the hull, sending metallic screams through the cabin. Hold on, he said, pulling the lever. The ship lurched upward, leaving the soldiers shrinking below like black ants on snow. Inside the cockpit, Elyra stared out the window. You don't have to do this, she said softly. They will hunt you too now. Ryan kept his eyes on the sky. I was hunted long before you came, he replied. At least now I know why. The radio crackled. A cold, familiar voice breaking through. Captain Cross, stand down. You are interfering with Federation security operations. Ryan's jaw tightened. This is Commander Hale, he muttered, recognizing the voice. Hale had been his superior during the war. The man who gave orders without conscience. Ryan switched the comm on. You sent me a bride. Hale, he said bitterly. But she came with your sins. Hale's voice remained calm. Return the subject and you'll live. Ryan looked at Elyra. Then at the burning horizon. Not this time, he said, cutting the signal. The ship flew low across the icy plains. Elyra turned to him. Where will we go? Ryan answered quietly. Somewhere they can't find us. Somewhere with answers. She placed a hand on the glass, watching the stars fade behind the clouds. They will burn everything to hide the truth, she said. Ryan nodded. Then we'll make sure the galaxy sees it. Below them, explosions shook the colony as the soldiers destroyed the lab. Every secret buried deeper under fire, but one secret had escaped. And it was flying through the dark with a broken soldier and an alien who was never meant to exist. As the cargo ship disappeared into the storm, Commander Hale watched from his command screen. He turned to his officers, his face like stone. Activate the hunters, he said. Bring me the Genesis subject alive. Far above the frozen world, Ryan and Elyra drifted through the clouds. Neither spoke for a long time, then Elyra whispered, You saved me. Ryan looked at her quietly. No, he said. You saved me from believing humans were still the good ones. Outside, lightning flashed across the sky. The war between truth and silence had begun. The cargo ship drifted through the storm for hours. Outside, the frozen clouds swallowed every bit of light. Inside, Ryan sat in silence, his hand still shaking from the escape. Elyra rested beside him, pale but breathing. The humming of the old engines was the only sound between them. Ryan stared at the control screen. Fuel levels were low. The navigation grid was fading in and out. He sighed. We can't keep running forever. Elyra opened her eyes slowly. We don't need forever, just long enough to make them see. Ryan turned to her, confused. See what? She whispered. The truth you helped hide. Ryan frowned. I didn't hide anything. But deep down, he knew there were things he had ignored during the war, orders he followed without question, places he protected without asking why, and maybe one of those places was where she was made. Elyra sat up weakly, connecting her neural cord into the ship's console. Streams of data flickered across the screens. Images, files, recordings, all from the Genesis lab. Ryan watched in disbelief as scenes unfolded before his eyes. Human scientists injecting alien children with strange fluids, screams echoing in cold metal rooms, and the words human evolution through alien adaptation flashing across the screens. Ryan's stomach twisted. My God, he whispered. Elyra's voice trembled. They called it progress. She looked at him with tear-filled eyes. They called me the perfect hybrid, but they never saw me as alive. He reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. You're alive now, he said softly. And we're going to show them. Elyra nodded, her eyes glowing faintly. I can send this data across the network, she said. If the signal reaches the galactic net. Every colony will see what they did, Ryan hesitated. And if they trace it back, they'll come for us, she said calmly, but the truth will already be free. Ryan stood beside her, his decision made. Then do it, he said. Elyra closed her eyes, light flowing from her fingertips into the console. The ship began to hum as power surged through its old systems. Her voice was steady, linking to the galactic net. Then the lights flickered. A voice broke through the speakers, cold and sharp. This is Commander Hale. Cut the transmission or be destroyed. Ryan gritted his teeth. They found us fast. He grabbed the ship's manual controls. Weaving through the clouds as laser fire streaked past, small drones appeared behind them, their red lights glowing like blood. Keep sending, he shouted. Elyra's eyes glowed brighter. Almost done. A blast hit the side of the ship, sending sparks across the cabin. Ryan fought the controls, smoke filling the air. "Hang on," he yelled. "The ship spun." Falling through the clouds, alarm screaming, Elyra's voice broke through the chaos. Signal sent. Then everything went dark. When Ryan opened his eyes, the ship had crashed into a canyon of ice. He coughed, blood on his lip. Elyra lay nearby, her body still glowing faintly. He crawled to her, shaking her shoulders. "Elyra, stay with me." She opened her eyes slowly, smiling weakly. "We did it." Ryan looked up at the small screen still working. Across the galaxy, transmissions were spreading like wildfire. Every colony, every ship, every station. They were all seeing the files from Project Genesis. The truth had escaped, and the galaxy would never be the same. Moments later, the sound of engines filled the air. Federation dropships landed nearby, soldiers pouring out. Ryan stood up, shielding Elyra behind him, his blaster raised. Commander Hale stepped forward. His armor shining under the cold light, he looked calm. Too calm. "You've done more damage than you understand, Captain," Hale said. Ryan glared at him. "You built monsters and called it science," Hale smiled faintly. "And yet one of those monsters is standing right behind you." Elyra's hand tightened on Ryan's arm. "Don't listen," she whispered. Hale raised his weapon. "She's not one of you, Cross. She's a prototype." Ryan shook his head. "She's more human than you ever were." The soldiers took aim. Ryan knew they couldn't win this fight. He looked at Elyra and said quietly, "Run when I tell you." She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "I won't leave you again." Before he could answer, a beam of light exploded from the cliffside. A rebel ship appeared, firing on the soldiers. The attack gave them seconds, but seconds were enough. Ryan pulled Elyra toward the rebel ship, shouting over the chaos. They climbed aboard as lasers tore through the ice. A rebel pilot turned and shouted, "You're the one who sent the transmission." Ryan nodded. "We are." The pilot grinned. "Then welcome to the Resistance." As the ship lifted into the sky, Elyra watched the burning colony disappear below. "The truth is free," she said softly. Ryan looked at her. "Yeah, but now the war begins." She nodded, her voice quiet but steady. "Then we fight for the right reason this time." In the distance, across dozens of worlds, people were rising. Humans and aliens alike were watching the Genesis files, and for the first time in centuries, they were united not by power but by outrage. The Human Federation tried to silence the signal, but it was too late. The truth had already become light, and light could not be caged again. The stars looked different now, maybe because Ryan was finally seeing them without orders, without lies, without the weight of war. The rebel ship drifted quietly through deep space. Lights dimmed to hide from scanners. Elyra sat near the window, her reflection blending with the endless dark. Her eyes still glowed faintly, like a small flame refusing to die. It had been 3 days since the transmission, across the galaxy. The truth of Project Genesis had spread like wildfire. Some humans called it treason, others called it justice. The Federation was cracking, its colonies divided, its leaders hiding behind silence, and among that silence, a new voice had begun to rise, humanity's conscience. Ryan stood beside Elyra, his shoulder bandaged, his mind restless. He had fought wars before, but never one that felt this personal. Elyra looked at him quietly. "You regret sending the truth." Ryan shook his head. "No, I regret not knowing it sooner." She smiled faintly. "Then you've already changed more than most humans ever will." The ship's comm system crackled. A voice came through. "Captain Cross, we're approaching the Rebel Council." Ryan nodded. "Prepare for docking." As the ship descended, he looked out the window. Below them was a hidden station built inside an asteroid, glowing with life and energy, humans, aliens, hybrids, all working side by side. It was the first time he had seen such unity, and it almost didn't feel real inside the council hall. Rebels from 100 worlds stood waiting. Screens around the room showed clips of the leaked files, every image a scar on the conscience of mankind. Ryan walked forward, feeling hundreds of eyes watching him. A tall alien with golden skin stepped forward. "You are the human who freed the truth." Ryan nodded. "Not just me," he said, "her too." He gestured to Elyra, who stepped beside him, shy but proud. The alien bowed slightly. "Then both of you have given us something greater than vengeance." Ryan frowned. "What's that?" "Hope," the alien said softly. The word felt strange on Ryan's tongue. He hadn't believed in hope for years. Not until a broken alien woman fell from the sky and called him human again. Later, Ryan stood alone on a balcony overlooking the stars. He could hear distant engines, new ships being built, new alliances forming for the first time. It didn't sound like preparation for war. It sounded like rebirth. Elyra joined him quietly, standing beside him. "They will come again," she said. "Hale and his army, they won't stop." Ryan nodded. "I know. But now the galaxy knows who they are," she added. "They can't hide behind peace anymore." Ryan looked at her. "And what about you? What will you do now?" She smiled softly. "Live," she said. "Maybe that's the best revenge," he laughed quietly. "Maybe it is." She looked out at the stars again, her voice calm. "You know, Ryan, humans created me to destroy life. But you taught me how to protect it." He turned to her, his voice quiet but filled with pride. "You didn't need me for that, Elyra. You were always more human than any of us." Suddenly, a bright flash appeared on the horizon, a Federation ship entering the system. The alarms began to ring through the base. Ryan reached for his weapon, but Elyra placed her hand over his. "Let me handle this," she whispered. Before he could stop her, she walked toward the center platform, her body glowing brighter with each step. Her implant flickered to life, but this time it wasn't fear, it was power. The Federation ship opened fire, beams of light tearing through the dark. Elyra raised her hands, and a shield of pure energy spread from her like a sunrise. The blasts hit the barrier and dissolved into sparks. Everyone in the base watched in silence as her light grew stronger. Ryan's heart pounded. "Elyra, stop. You'll burn yourself out." She looked back at him and smiled. "For once, I'm not running anymore." The sky above the asteroid filled with golden light. Her power spread across the horizon, disabling every enemy ship without destroying them. The attack ended as suddenly as it began, and then the light faded. When Ryan reached her, Elyra was on the floor. Weak but alive, he lifted her gently. Tears stinging his eyes, she whispered, "See? Even monsters can save the world." Ryan shook his head. "You were never a monster." She smiled, her voice soft like a dying star. "Then maybe that's what makes me human." Later that night, the rebels held a ceremony. They didn't call it victory. They called it the dawn of truth. Ryan stood among them, holding Elyra's pendant in his hand. He whispered to himself, "They tried to erase her, but she became the reason humanity found its soul again." The stars burned brighter above, and somewhere between them the echo of Elyra's light still lived. A reminder that even in the darkest lies, truth will always find a way to shine. And when it does, even the coldest heart of mankind can learn to be human again.